Okay, everybody, so today I want to go through just a simple summary of the halachot of adding water into the chulant on Shabbos Kodesh. Okay, it's a halacha that's negaya to some of the isurim that we've been discussing in the previous days, namely Chazara. That means returning, replacing food that was previously on the blech. And we're going to go through in a very simple way because sometimes, we go through many different halachas. Shehiyah, Chazara, and the Mitzvah Hashem. Tomorrow we're going to be starting Be'ezus Hashem, B'siyata D'Shmaya, the Gavaldige halacha on Siman Reish and Zayin, which is obviously Hatmana, which is a beautiful halacha which we're starting tomorrow. But before that, I want to go through and summarize and take much of what we've learned, put it together into this sugya. It's one shaila, which is how and can you add water to a chulant on Shabbos Kodesh. That is the basic shaila. That's what we're going to be discussing today, Be'ezah Hashem. So we're going to go through B'siyata D'Shmaya, and again, a lot of this is Chazara, because there's all of this we've learned. But I just want to go through it and put it into one place. There are 5 problems. There are 5 chashosh, 5 things that could potentially be problematic when you add water into the chulant on Shabbos Kodesh. What are the 5 potential halachic problems? Number 1, bishul. Obviously that's going to be the first one, that's a shayla of a daraisa. Then there's going to be a chashash of bishul achatzli. Then there's going to be chazara. Then there's going to be megis, and then there's going to be basa v'chalav. Okay, some of it we spoke about yesterday. So those are the 5 potential halachic issues that a person can have when he adds water to the chulant. That's why it's crucial for a person to understand and know these halachas, because again, this is very negaya. Naftula, are you with me? Always. Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, I'll have the write-up of the share afterwards, please. Send it to me, the whole write-up of the share. Versteht sir? Okay, let's go. Okay, Livy, you with me? This is Gavaldik. Let's move on, let's start. Chashash bishul. Let's begin. The chashash of bishul is very, very simple. Right, let's talk about adding water. If the chulant is not fully cooked, there's basically not much you can do. There's not much you could do, right? Whether it's taking off a lid, whether it's adding water, there's not much you could do. If it's not fully cooked, and again, the definition of fully cooked means that most people would serve it and eat it in this degree of cooked. It could be that more cooking, more time would make it better. That's called mistamik v'yafaloi. That's not called cooking. Once it's cooked to the degree, David, you with me? That most people would eat it, that most people would serve it live, yeah? That's called muvashir called tzorkoi. Any further cooking is fine. Therefore, if you take it off to whatever, you'll have to put it back on with all the conditions that we spoke about because it's fully cooked. Okay? Now, adding water. We spoke at the end of yesterday. This is a simple one. Adding water is very simple. According to Ashkenazim, Sfardim we'll get to in a minute. Okay? Zadia, Sfardim we're going to get to in a minute. Shmuel, hold up there. According to Ashkenazim, very simple. The best option to do is to take, you could take the whole chulant pot and put it under, which we'll get to, or you take a cup, you put it under the hot water that's on the fire because the urn is on, and you pour it directly into the chulant which is off the fire. Fully cooked, the water is hot, it comes from a place of heat, and therefore it's very important. Somebody asked yesterday, your brother asked a Gavaldige kasha. So somebody asked him on Shabbos if his crock pot didn't have a blech, and he wants to add water to the crock pot. So he has a problem. He can't take the chulant out, because if he takes it out, he can't put it back in. Because why can't you put it back in? Because there's no blech. Very good. So he can't take the chulant out. He wants to put water in. Okay, we'll get to the shaila of makis in a moment, whether that's a problem of mixing or not. Reuven, are you with me? He wants to know, can he take the water from an urn, which is on, mamish ala eish, and pour it into the chulant, but lemaisa there's no blech. The answer is avada nisht, because there's no blech there. You can't take it from a place on the fire to a place that's got no blech. Chazara is only mutter onto a place that has a blech. If there's no blech on your crock pot, and the blech on the crock pot we'll talk about Be'ez Hashem more when we talk about Hatmana, which we'll get to tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, has to be that there's a blech if you're going to put water in it. So if there's no blech, then you can't put water into it. Simply because you're doing Chazara onto a place without a blech, and therefore there's no etta. The only thing I told him is take off the crock pot. Then you could line the inside with foil. Again, if you have pre-cut foil, because you obviously can't cut foil on Shabbos Kodesh, that would be okay, because now it has a blech. Once it's a blech, you put the chulant back in, and you pour the water when it was out, so you're all good. But if there's no blech in the crock pot, right, Simcha, that's not going to help you b'chalal, because you can't do that. So according to Ashkenazim, it's very, very simple. There's no problem whatsoever. Take the cup, pour it straight in, the chulant's off the fire, you're good. Okay? Take the whole pot, put it under. We spoke about the lid. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. According to Sfardim, there's a problem. According to Sfardim, there's a problem. There's a couple of problems. First of all, because there's a Beis Yosef. I want to read you Lashon Beis Yosef. Simon Shin Yud Ches. There's Beis Yosef Diva Maskam in its stunning. He brings the Prima Godim, and his Lashon is the Klisheni Have Kinit stunning. Lashon of the Beis Yosef, which the Shulchan Aruch, the Maran, in Shulchan Aruch, and the Yalkut Yosef, Paskin B'Shem Chacham Ovadia, is very simple. If it's in a Klisheni, it's cold. You put your finger in, it's hot. I don't care. It's cold. So according to the Sfaradim, to take a cup and pour it into the chulun, it's all over. That's bishul. It's mamish bishul, because the klisheni's got a din of cold. Mimele, if it's got a din of cold, you're pouring it into a boiling hot chulun. It's going on the fire. Yesh lecha baya. You with me? Moving. You got this? Is very important. Your wife's going to forhay you this on your first shidduch date. She's going to forhay you on this shaila. Yeah? Sorry, you must come to that one, no? And then you're going to tell her the whole list. What do you mean? Rav Avadia, but according to Ashkenazim, she's going to be well impressed. Wow. So according to Sfardim, the only heter you're going to have is to go and pour it straight from the urn. There's no heter of a cup. It's not going to help you. Even if it's Yatzaneres boy. There are those Chacham Ben Sina Bashaul in Olet Zion Chelek Bet. He brings up Shaila Yeshami Lismo Efsha B'Shas Atchak whatever. Abel Maisa according to Sfaradim, you have a problem. You can't put water into the children on Shabbos with a cup. You have to be careful, okay? That's a simple one, okay? Ashkenazim, Sfaradim, adding water. Next. Yeah. Right. Yes, we'll talk more about hot crock pots when we discuss tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to the Shal of Atmana, and obviously a crock pot is one of the biggest Atmana Shalas that exist in the world, so we will discuss that Be'ez Hashem in more details, but the answer is yes. You still have to take it out, otherwise the Shal of Megas, which we'll talk about in a minute also. Closing the lid. Hey, Melech, are you with us? Closing the lid. So if you open the lid, we spoke about this in Mishnah if you remember, opening and closing the lid of a crock pot, or any pot for that matter, really depends if the food is cooked. If it's not cooked, avada, you cannot replace the lid, right? And the sugi over there, be'etzim, is not really in Shin Yud Ches, it's in Yeridei Simon Tzadi Beis, where it talks about, right? You remember this? Tipa shenolov nofel mibachutz, right? If you've got a tipas cholov, right? The famous ran in Kolabasa, you got the milk that falls on the outside of the pot, and the pot is closed. It's ki'ilu, the whole thing is mixing. So Mamela, when you close the pot, if the food is not fully cooked, then you have a sure problem of bishul. Even if it's fully cooked, Yesh Omen, don't replace the lid because of the shine of the kol boy of mixing. But the ma'aser will make this will make on. So halacha the ma'aser tuli. If they ask you on the first shidduch date, are you allowed to replace the lid on Shabbos Kodesh if it's fully cooked? The answer is yes. Yes, there are those who are machmir. But over here we pass that it's okay if it's fully cooked. Efilu ala eish, I can open the lid, give azar shmek, and put it back in. There's no problem whatsoever of the lid. You got to be careful of what though when you replace the lid. I know you want to say it. Daniel, very good. The water condensation. That when you put the lid on the counter in order to serve the chulun Friday night, so you've got to make sure that the lid, when you put it back on, Levi, is what? That the droplets of water from condensation that are on there are still nice and warm, according to Ashkenazim, according to Sfardim. It's going to have to be Yatzaledes boy. According to Ashkenazim, it's going to have to be nice and warm. But if they're cold, l'kol alma, you have a problem. So what do, Azaria? You shake it off. Give it a couple of shakes. You don't have to dry it. That you don't have to do. Because it's pre-cooked. Special acha bishul. So you can be more makel. You give it a couple of shakes, what Moshe says, put it back on. Unless you rinse it, by the way. You know, people do this. We should never know. People do these things. They take the lid and they rinse it under the faucet, under the tap, with regular cold water, just to clean it off, whatever, right? What's that? Then there's cold water that was never cooked before. This avada you can't put back on. Right? Ruvin, kavalding. Then you have to dry it up. People don't have these things. So you guys, Baruch Hashem. You guys know the halachas, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so that is the gabe, the shaila of bishul. That's pretty much all the shailas of bishul. Let's move on. Chashash number 2. Bishul achatzli. We spoke about this, if you remember, that you're not allowed to machoikus rishonim. Siv Dalet and Shin Ches tells us clearly that you cannot change the method of cooking from the original method. That means, if originally it was cooked, you can't bake it or roast it. If it was roasted, you can't cook it. So the shaila is, once the chulun gets completely dried out, and it's basically roasting away. Sometimes you have that. Right, you open up the lid and it's like sizzling away over there, right? Especially in the crock pot. It's almost sizzling away. You almost put it on high. You're stuck. It gets sizzling away. So when you pour the water in, and all of a sudden it's like bubbling away. It's cooking again. It's gewaldig. The problem is bishul achatzli. So the poskim here genuinely makel. Why? Because of the be'alacha, which is bishul achatzli achabishul. Since it was cooked, and then it went to roasting stage, and then it went to cooking. So since I already had 2 before, the third one's not a problem. But Ramosha Steinbach, who we were zoicha to go and see not long ago, wrote in Chuvas Van Hoggers very clearly, make sure to check the cholent as much as you can. Try to make sure that it doesn't get to the stage of tzli. Make sure that it always has liquid in it and it's not getting dried out to the stage that it's roasting and cooking over there without liquid, because that will be maybe a problem in that case. But of course, if it happens, you could be somech on the be'alacha pashtus, which is bishul lachatzliach habishul, which means to put water in after it's in the roasting stage would be okay. Are you with me, Zakaria? Beautiful. Let's go weiter. The chashash of Chazara means that the water that you're bringing it from, where's it coming from? Let's say, for example, Ben Echad b'shayla for you. Let's say I make one of these flasks. You know the flasks that you keep water hot for like hours and hours and hours? A thermos. Beautiful. Okay, gewaldig. It's made of 2 layers of glass with a vacuum in between. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So let's say Erev Shabbos, you put water in there, boiling hot. Couple of hours into Shabbos, the water's still boiling hot. Can I take from there, it's boiling hot water, fully cooked. Can I take from there, put it into the shunt?
Yeah, the shunt's fully cooked.
The shunt's also fully cooked. Zaria, what do you say? Anybody else? Yeah. Let's have a vote. Everyone's scared. I don't know why everyone's scared. I always say be confident. Be confident. Let's go. No. Your wife's going to ask you this kasha. Shabbos morning she's going to ask. And say, 1 second. There's a Gemara in Bab Metzia. No, Chasham. No, Rabbi Sai, I'm going to get in such trouble for this. No, Rabbi Sai, no. Can you do it or not? Hello? Shmuel, you're allowed, yeah? Yes. Nasameh, you're allowed. Eliezer? That's an easy one. Not a... You had in mind. You had in mind? Had in mind? Anything else? Yeah. Rabbi Wittgenstein's waiting to say it. Rabbi Wittgenstein's waiting to say it. He's like sitting there enjoying this. The Rabbi said, Chas v'sholem, to do such a thing. Shabbos Kodesh. What's Chazara? Chazara means it came from a fire, you put it back on a fire. It's not on a fire, it's on the counter. Very nice that it's hot, so maybe you're not over on Bishul. No. Oh, but the Drabonon fire, by the way, is also very hot. So the Maisa Chazara is that it's a Drabonon. You can't put it on because it doesn't come from a fire. It can be boiling hot, but it doesn't come from a fire. It has to come from the fire to a fire. From a fire to a fire that has a blech. That's the crock pot with the lining, or that's the blech on the fire, whatever it may be. Very, very important. And the last chashash is the chashash of megis, which, as we said, if you remember, b'shem the kolboy, the end of Simon Shin Ches, very clear. You have a shitas of Rishonim that hold, and Mishbur Be'etzem Paskins Lachma like this, is that we're worried that even if it's fully cooked, we're worried that when you mix something, especially when it's on the fire, you're over on bishul, even though it's fully cooked. Chiddush in the Rishonim, we gave a few pshatim, the Primigodim, the Chazan Ish, whatever, we're not going to go into it now, why it's asa. But I'll upon him. We're not discussing mixing the chulent, this havadah. No one's going to mix the chulent while it's al ha'esh. Chas v'shulam, you open up the lid of the chulent, you're going to mix it livey? Chas v'shulam. Chas v'shulam, to mix the chulent while it's on the fire, in the pot, in the crock pot, this is havadah nisht. Was? Gan Eden? And a chanami on a Wednesday. That's how you get Gan Eden on a Wednesday. Or on Shabbos, you just get Gehenim for that. Al Kaponim. So therefore, when it's on the fire, avada, you don't mix it. When it's off the fire, we spoke about this. Remember this? Anybody? Where are the notes? Tell you, where are those notes? You're going to look them up. What do we say at the end of Shin Yud Ches? Are you allowed to mix it if it's off the fire? The crock pot came off the fire. I want to give it a zam mix before I serve it to the oilam. No, nosamer. What do you say? Took the Heilige Chofetz Chaim Schus and Yugen Alayni. If you want to be machmeh, you can be machmeh. If you want, but you don't have to. Which means it's mutter to mix it when it's off the fire and fully cooked. But by the way, the Mishnah doesn't say that by everything. Mishnah doesn't say here, there. It means there's epis, there's something involved, right? What? That's not a problem because that's chazara as long as oid biyoder daitalach, so all the kavanas. Let's move on. Putting water into it, which is obviously our sugya. To put water into it is going to be problematic if it's on the fire. According to many poskim, if you pour water while it's on the fire, there's a chashash megis, because when you pour the water in, it mixes things around. And al ha'esh, we always say, we are choshesh for megis, which means mixing while the chulent's on the fire with choshesh, even though it's fully cooked, could be problematic. However, I will tell you, it's an interesting thing, that some of the gedolei poskim hold that even if it's on the fire, if you pour it slowly, you could be mekel. If you pour it slowly and you make sure that when you pour it slowly, that it doesn't mix things all over the place, just get the surface, and you need more water in the cholent, then there's a mokim to be made of the Chazon Ish, the Chazara Shulchan, and others held that even if you don't take it off, it's still on the fire, there's a mokim to make, and therefore there's a mokim to say that if it's hard to take it off, or the kids want to do it, or whatever it may be, then you could do it on the fire. But of course it's better, according to most poskim, to lift it off and pour it in slowly while it's off, but even while it's on, there's definitely a mokim to say that it would be mutter. Shlomo Zalman was quite makel that even ala eish, that you could add water to it without any problem. And the last chashash is obviously the chashash of basar v'cholov, which we spoke a little bit about yesterday, which is making sure that the steam doesn't go out with force in that way, to make sure that when you open up the lid, you don't open it right over the faucet of the actual urn, because that could cause the steam to make it fleishik. But even if it happens, I'll be very honest with you, I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm saying it anyway, but even if the maisa, you do it, it probably won't make the faucet fleishik anyway, because any steam that's got a mokum to go, it's not in a confined space. Again, like we said yesterday from the Chuvas Sabach, famously the Aruch HaShulchan of Scheinberg and others, that the maisa has got no koyach to make anything fleishik, which is why all the spatulas and the salt shakers, avada lechatchila, you have separate, you keep it far away and whatever, but the mice, if it happens, steam generally will not utter something if it will actually have a place to go. So Rabbi said that is the chashash of adding water to the cholent. We've done Issa Chazor. Let me just mention one last thing that people don't chap. The Mishnah Berurah brings in Shinchov Hey Sikot and Samach the following. The Mishnah Berurah says, what about Amira La'akam? Am I allowed to ask a guy to put something on the fire? We're not discussing bishul over here. We're discussing chazara. For example, let's say there's no blech. Let's say, for example, I put the cholent off, took the cholent off the hot plate, off the whatever it is. I want to put it back, and I'm like, oy vay, there's no blech. What do I do now? And I've got no foil that I can make into a blech. I'm stuck. I happen to have a guy there. Can I ask a guy to do chazara, which is a derabanan, for me? Right? So the Mishnah Berurah says, normally avad it's also to ask a guy, as Ruve knows, Reishain Vav, Shin Zayin as well. You're not to ask a guy to do any malacha that you yourself cannot do. That's the Issa of Mira La'akam. Or Bazuk the Mishnah Berurah, clearly in Shin Chafei Sikot and Samach, that if there's nothing to eat, and this is the only hot dish, then there's a makom to be made, and ask a guy to do a malacha of chazara and put it back in a place where there's no black, which means you yourself cannot put it back on. And Mitzvah Shem, tomorrow Rabbi said we're going to start the halacha of hatmana, insulation. Have a wonderful day.